Welcome back, NodPod. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Chasing Heroin. So today's guest is Narcan Nate. And I asked Nate if I could interview him because he just really went through and came through to the other side of something that I think is really important to share about. Nate has been in, and you may have heard us allude to this a little bit on the show in some of the intros. Nate has been in a incredibly deep, depressive episode since prior to the relapse. The relapse was in September, and he's been in an incredibly dark place. And he shows up for the show, and he was going to work, but every time that I texted him, "How are you?" it was like, "I'm fucking miserable." He was suicidal by his own admission. By the way, we do talk a little bit today about some potentially triggering suicidal thoughts. He was suicidal, and I thought that he would, at the very least, maybe move back to Tennessee and step out of the recovery world completely. Like maybe he doesn't go to Oxycontin, but maybe start like drinking, smoking weed and just like not be a recovery person anymore, because he was super disillusioned with the program of 12-step and was not interested in doing that, but knew he didn't want to keep using, and then has been clean this whole time, but just really, really, really struggling. And then I watched him over the past 3 or 4 months, I'd say, do all these things that got him out of that place. And he's doing so much better now. He looks different. When you know someone that's going through that, it almost becomes hard to remember like how they were. And there was part of me that was like, was he always just like kind of a bit melancholy and I just don't remember? Like it had been so long, I really couldn't even remember. And then it was like he started to come back to life, like his color changed. And he did all of these things that would provide really a roadmap to someone else about how to work through a deeply depressive time in recovery. So I asked him recently, "Hey, are you feeling okay enough to talk about this? Can I get you on the show and talk to you about what you've just gone through and the things that you've done to get yourself to the other side?" And he was willing, obviously, and we just had a really great conversation about all the things that he was thinking and feeling, and more importantly, how he got through that stuff. I was learning some stuff as we were talking. So please give me your feedback about this episode. Please, I would love for you guys to also reach out to him and support him, because he was, as always, authentic and vulnerable. And I'm always impressed when, he's able to do that. I'm impressed when anyone's able to do that. So I would love for you guys to reach out to him too and say, "Hey, great episode." So I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and we will see you again next week. Welcome back, NodPod. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is so cool. Also, I'm thinking how easy this is. Like, we should have been doing this the whole time.
What do you mean? Like just individual episodes, or like me just recording from home, or what? Like,
you recording from home if we were doing our own episode. But I guess Riverside is new to. I'm talking to Nate, by the way, guys. Nate is actually the guest today. Hi, Nate.
Hi.
And he's at home on his computer, and I'm at home just on opposite ends of town so that I can get the video of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I guess when we were recording in my studio, it was easy because back then I had multiple mics. We
Yeah,
were sharing one mic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which I bought I told you, I bought a mixer and it didn't work. I need to just hire someone to help me. And Skylar keeps saying that. He's like, "Hire someone to help you. You complain about this every day. Please hire someone to help you use 2 mics." And I'm like, "I know, but I don't really know who to ask."
Facebook. Put something on Facebook.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I could do that, or even just Google like San Diego audio. I don't know. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, I mean something like that. So yeah, someone that's got experience with like audio.
Because it shouldn't be that hard, because I have multiple microphones. I have the stuff. I just can't make it work. I've got like 4 mics, So anyways, regardless, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Good day.
How was showers this morning?
It was chill. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
chill day. Yeah, it was chill. It was nice. Sun was out, so it was a good day.
Dude, thank God the sun is finally out. That was like, I don't want to be one of those people, because I know we're lucky because we live in California, but I thought we were all just being babies. But then my mom was like, "No, there wasn't a sunny day until like 2 weeks ago since February like 12th. Like it legitimately was the longest period of overcast like we've ever had."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I definitely believe that. Yeah, no, it kind of sucked.
It definitely sucked. Well, I know it affected you, which is why we're talking today. Before we talk, though, will you explain? I don't know if we've ever talked about Humanity Showers. Will you just tell the Nod Pod what Humanity Showers is? Because it's a very cool thing that Nate does.
Yeah, so Humanity Shower, it's a nonprofit. It's run by Jordan Verdin, and so essentially, Jordan has interviewed. I'm going to give the backstory. Jordan has interviewed and took portraits of, I think, anywhere from like 600 to 800 people that are experiencing homelessness, and he asked them to. He asked them what do they need, and one was to be seen and to be heard, so that's why he takes their pictures and does portraits. He also compensates them for that, and he tells their story online. And he has a following of about, I know on Instagram his following is about 20,000, so that's reasonably good for Instagram. And then the other one was for a shower, to be for hygiene, to be clean. And so he was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And somehow, some way, it started with like wipies, and like they would pour buckets of water on people, and that was the showers. Now it's like 6 shower trailers is what it's grew into. And so Wednesdays they have showers, there's breakfast, there's coffee. Sometimes like they'll have food trucks there, they'll have a massage therapist, they have chiropractors
Oh,
sometimes. I mean, they have like nail technicians there some days, like cleaning people's nails and filing them, and
wow, wow.
political work and whatever nail technicians do. I'm not really, not really my forte. Yeah, they do some nails, and they'll be. I think we've set up computers there before for people to like do stuff. So yeah, it's just like pretty much an unfunded resource fair is essentially what goes on.
Showers are mobile. He drives them to different locations, right?
Yeah, yeah. Some places are stationary. Some places he has like permanent showers there.
Okay.
So he just leaves the trailer there. But the ones, well, that's locations where there's like multiple showers a week. But other than that, yeah, he like pulls the trailer there, or has Bronner's pulls it.
Oh my gosh. That's a really cool thing because that's true. That's like what you need when you're out there. And then you have Narcan available if somebody approaches you and asks.
Yeah, yeah. I have Narcan test strips. I'm not going to say it on the podcast because I don't know if it'll flag it or whatever. But we'll just say the works. We'll say the
The
works.
podcast
Or
doesn't ever get flagged for anything,
oh,
which
really?
is
Okay. Well, yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, well, I mean, yeah. So if they, I pretty much I do secondary exchange for the syringe exchange in San Diego. So it's clean needles, pipes,
Um,
anything to reduce the spread of diseases, bloodborne pathogens, things like that, so on and so forth.
okay, let me ask you while I've got you. New
Yeah.
York just did, they have a vending machine with crack pipes in it. People are losing their fucking minds. And I saw Chauncey do a video, a TikTok that was so good, the way she explained the public health component of a crack machine. Because she started by saying, I get it. I know that looks scary. I understand. But here's how it actually benefits you, the non user, to have a crack vending machine. There's a societal benefit to a crack vending machine. Can you explain what the societal benefit is to having one of those in your city?
Yeah, so the thing is, and Chauncey touched on this. Human beings are scared of what they don't understand, and that's why everybody's freaking the fuck out about it because they don't understand it. And in their head, they're like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." But here's the thing: so a lot of people, I even see people like they would be like, "Oh, I understand syringes, but a crack pipe, really?" So here's the thing: what we do. So you have someone that shoots, right? So if that individual transitions to smoking, for one, it's a lot safer. It's less overdoses. It's less spending on ambulances, which comes out of taxpayer money. So that's less ambulances tied up for overdoses, and they can be doing other stuff that's less strain on them, less compassionate burnout. That person is less likely to get bloodborne pathogens, which is again is way cheaper than them getting endocarditis, which is like $190,000 treatment, and it's cost effective. It's very, very cheap to do that. And if there is a service center there, people are more likely to get treatment that way because they're building the relationship with individuals there. So, like an interventionist, what they do, their goal, if someone comes to intervention me, right, their goal is to raise my quote unquote bottom to where I feel like I'm there, like I'm here, but I'm here, right? So they're trying to raise your bottom to get you to where you want to seek help. Well, I feel as if where people, and I don't like the word bottom because I just don't like it, but I feel as if naturally by having relationships with people and meeting them where they're at, like no judgment, like I get you're understanding this. It may or may not be the best for you, but I get it. I feel like that naturally elevates them to a place to where they want to seek help because they don't feel what's the word I'm looking
Like
for?
an
They don't feel
outcast.
Yeah, they don't feel like an outcast. They feel seen and heard, like we said. Like they feel like they're understood. Like, do you remember before you ever went to a program? Do you remember how lonely you felt? Do you remember feeling like you were the only person that felt like you struggled with this? Because I remember that, and it was fucking horrible. So I think if we have that relationship with them and make them feel like they're not alone and somebody understands what they're going through, that is a game changer
For
to
sure.
me. And it also elevates their quality of life. Like America, we have this idea that people should suffer because they do things that we don't like or approve of them doing. And that doesn't have to be the case. And they have this idea that we're promoting drug use or making drug use normal. And the thing of it is, drug use is very normal. It's never changed. Human beings have done drugs throughout our entire history before there was ever a record of it. I've said that more times than I can count. I probably said that every time you've interviewed me. And nothing we have done has been beneficial to that, maybe besides taking a public health approach. But this whole ostracizing people that use drugs is exacerbated the situation.
Well, I think that's a key component to what you just said. The idea that, because there are other people in the health and wellness space that are coming from the perspective of, well, ideally, we just get people to a point where they're healthy enough where they're not using drugs, like they're healthy enough mentally. And it's like, okay, that's literally never going to happen. To use your phrasing, people have always endeavored in substance abuse. Human beings have always done that. That piece of the puzzle isn't going to go away. There's never going to be a time in history where there isn't a part of the population that is seeking substances. It's part of the human experience, right? It's not all the people, but it's people. That's not ever going to go away. Would that be ideal? Maybe, but that's not what's going to happen. But what you just said is and I think you're right. I think Chauncey said that too, but I forgot about that. Having pipes available so that the syringe users can maybe switch to a pipe, or in a pinch, they switch to a pipe. That makes sense. And so that is one of the ways that it's a societal benefit.
Yeah, and it's less. I mean, that's less syringes on the ground too.
Yes,
That
exactly.
people they always bitch about. That's the first. Oh, these harm reduction programs, there's syringes on the ground. Well, we're probably pulling more syringes off the ground than if we weren't around. You know what I mean? And if a syringe wasn't paraphernalia, they probably wouldn't throw it on the fucking ground.
Right. Also, though, like when you have a spot to use, because people are like, they'll talk about harm reduction and
The safe
say,
consumption site. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I
They
don't want
take they
people
take
using on the
they
street.
take
I'm
their
like,
syringes.
no, because I was using on the street because I couldn't, if I could have gone inside a building, I would have. Your kid isn't going to see me if I can go inside. But like, I remember shooting up behind like the 24-hour fitness in Oceanside once, and somebody walked by me. Like as I was registering, I was sitting outside because I was homeless using, And also I think about it a lot too, because one of the shower locations is where I was homeless over there in Oceanside. And I've thought about this so many times in an alternate universe where I meet you, but because I'm a homeless heroin addict going to showers, I know I would have said, wait a minute, why are you here? And if you had said, I got clean, we could have had that relationship and I would have asked you about it. Like I've thought about that. So, okay, so you did humanity showers today. But the real reason why I asked Nate on today is because I think I've said this a little bit, and I know you're going to get like uncomfortable when I say this, but that's okay. I don't care. I'm so proud of you because y'all might have heard me allude to it a little bit on episodes here and there. But Nate just went through a very dark, depressive episode for, I would say, 9 months or 10 months. And I didn't see it getting better because often, or I shouldn't say often, especially with men, with young men, a lot of times you don't want to hear the things I was saying to you. Like about, I'm trying to like make you go to the doctor and do all these things. And you don't want to hear that shit. You're only fucking 30 years old. Sometimes there's like a block there. And not just men. I shouldn't say that. Men and women. People don't want to hear that sometimes, right? And it was very hard I didn't know if I saw you coming out of it. And I frankly was really worried. And I shared this with him off air. I was very worried that I was going to get a phone call at some point that you had killed yourself. Because I would say that there was a period of about 6 months at least where anytime I texted you, hey, how you doing? You wrote, I fucking hate my life. I'm fucking miserable. That would like be the answer for a long time. And you did something that I really think people need to know what you just did. You got yourself through that period and to the other side somehow through a variety of tools that I could see you implementing that I want to talk about, like some fitness, some reconnection with the program, some reading, like some medical help, right? We don't have to say medication if you don't want to, but
No, I don't give a fuck.
you don't care? Okay.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
suck it. Fuck it.
Okay. Some medical intervention. You did all the things. And I don't think you even realized that you were doing them as you were doing them. Like, I kind of think as we talk about it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I did do all that stuff. All of like the personal development and self growth things that you hear people talk about that can get you out of a depression, you did all of them and it worked. And, you're feeling much better. You're way healthier. I feel like I've gotten the old Nate back. And even if you go back and watch other episodes, like you're there, but you're not completely there. You're there when I say to you, hey, do you got anything? But like it wasn't the same vibe, right? And you look healthier, you got fitter. And I just want to talk to people about what you did because people go through things like this in recovery and you didn't use. And I think your experience could be like a real roadmap to someone else who's just, to use like, NA lingo, going through it in recovery. So I want to start with, and I asked Nate off air if he was okay talking about all of this, and he said yes. And we kind of put up some guidelines and some boundaries. So I want to start with, I think you started feeling down before the relapse. The relapse was in September. I think you started feeling down though before that, a few months before that, right? Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I mean, I was probably burnt out leading up to me using again for sure. Burnout, just overwhelmed, like my plate was overloaded, So yeah, it was. I would say that's very accurate for sure.
So the primary source of your burnout was overwhelmed with the things that you had to do, right? Like overwhelmed with a to-do list, if you will. You had so many activities going on, right? That was like one of the main reasons probably, or the reason.
Yeah.
What were all the things that you were doing? Like, what did your schedule look like back then over a 7-day period? That was just insane. Like, what was all the stuff that you were doing that, like, what all had you taken on that was leading to this?
I mean, any given time, I was doing at least like I mean, not even counting like this podcast, but like at least one podcast a week, 2 podcasts a week, working full time, and then developing my own nonprofit, which is a lot of fucking work. Street outreach. I would say at least there was times back then, and even after that I was going to LA like 2 and 3 times a week just to work, mailing Narcan and test strips and everything else. I mean that takes time out of the day. Putting together like social media content, that takes a lot of time out of the day. Packing kits for street outreach, like I would, that's a lot of work. Going and picking up supplies and then putting it in storage and like, organizing it and all that stuff. So pretty much running like a pretty decent sized secondary exchange up here, on top of like mailing supplies. I was doing at least every other week. I was like, what is the word I'm looking for? I was advising people on like harm reduction programs or developing like Narcan and things like that. Or people would like reach out to me and be like, how do I get Narcan in my state? So I'd have to look up the laws and like have the access and do all that other shit,
Okay.
what I mean? And like my inbox would be like so fucking insanely full, like all the time for people like trying to find shit.
So essentially, you didn't have a day off,
I
right?
didn't have a day off. No,
You worked
yeah,
Sunday to Sunday every day.
I mean, pretty much I worked every day.
Right.
If I wasn't working for my job, I was like handling my shit, you know what I mean? Because my job's a full-time job. And then my nonprofit, that was keeping me busy. Like I was doing that during the days that I worked full-time on top of that. And then like weekends, I was, I had to handle that shit too. That's when I had the most time to allot towards it.
So you were taking no time off at all. And that's like the doing component. But there was also a component that I want to talk about with you, which was the anger and frustration that you would feel when people would misunderstand or argue or perpetuate myths around fentanyl and the opioid crisis. And so you spent a fair amount of time on TikTok and on Instagram making videos. And you got so personally consumed with that, right? That I feel like that took a huge emotional toll on you. It reminds me of my studio. I loved my studio so much, but I got so consumed with it, it became toxic to me. And I feel like destigmatizing fentanyl and addicts was so important to you, and you got so consumed with it that the anger and the irritation and the response videos became like toxic. Would you say that's true?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it definitely became. I mean, I don't know if the videos themselves became toxic. It was that there was so much of it, and I took personal responsibility for addressing that. And the reality is like there's no way I can address all of it. You
Right.
know what I mean? I can't go through and address every single statement, every single video, there's no way that's possible. And even by trying to do so, it's going to drain me emotionally. That's what it did.
So I wonder why. I don't think I've ever thought about this before because I'm in recovery too. And I see people making videos about fentanyl and weed. And I'm like, okay. I wonder why do you think it upsets you? Because like we've all got our things, right? That like trigger us and that we really get upset about. What about this issue do you think captivates and enrages you and you're so passionate about? Why do you think this is like your thing?
Well, for one thing, there's a saying, and that saying is ignorance is bliss, right? So for a lot of people, I'm not saying they're ignorant, they just don't know. So I'm going to give you an example here. So with all these myths around like passive exposure, like touching fentanyl or it being in the air, they're pushing laws for people to get like an assault on an officer, a felony charge over something that is a myth, that is bullshit, that is based and occurs due to their bad training, right? So it's unfortunate and unfortunate to know how policy works and how stories like that affect policy and people that use drugs. So I know, with that being said, that potentially bad policy is going to come out and further exacerbate the situation. And I also
Okay.
know the science behind it and understand like the organic chemistry with how that works. And I know that there's never been a case since the CDC's been tracking fent since 1969, and it's just frustrating that we keep pushing that narrative, keeps pushing it in, whether it's weed and marijuana or cannabis and fent or the whole passive exposure thing. Like I unfortunately have a very good understanding of how that is going to affect people within policy.
Right.
And
Like how
it's
dumb that is.
Well, I understand how dumb it is, and I understand that people don't know it, but it's like we've been addressing this for a long time, and we can put the science out there, and people still don't want to accept it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, people, and it's just like with social media, people think their opinion trumps data or science or meta analysis, and it's like, what more do you want, And and so yeah, I don't know. It's just frustrating that it
Yeah.
still goes on because they don't understand how that affects people. Like they think they're helping people, and I understand that. But and I try to address things in the most professional, cordial manner that I possibly can. And I, for the most part, do. Sometimes I can be a dick. Sometimes I've like went after people's throats, and I don't give a fuck. Like it is what it is. But and then when people don't want to take like accountability for that, they don't want to be like, oh, they just want to, it's just toxic. It's just
Yeah.
not. It's
Right.
not
Right.
good.
So as you were getting wrapped up in that, you were wrapped up in that emotionally and working all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. I would say the first thing that went was working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That went away before you relapsed, right? You quit being able to find time to go to the gym. I think that was an important part of like that's when you started to feel worse, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like the gym got pushed to the back, or I would go like late in the evening, but I would be like so drained that I really didn't get a workout in, or I had no motivation. I was just kind of going to like just go, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then bad eating habits developed. Wasn't sleeping well, was staying up late, getting up early, and just that shit catches up to you. I don't care what anybody says.
It
It
absolutely
catches up
catches
to
up
you.
to you. And we did a whole episode about the relapse, so I don't necessarily if y'all want to go back and listen to that, we talked a little bit more about exactly what happened, but bottom line is Nate used
Yeah, yeah, I
very
use.
briefly for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or 7 weeks or something like that. It was maybe a few months or something. And I'm not
Yeah, I
trying to
was like,
downplay it. I just want to give a timeline. It
yeah,
was a
no,
few
it was
months,
like
right?
2 months. Yeah, it was
Okay.
like two months. Yeah, give or take.
So when you decided to stop and you were looking for a detox, it was really, really hard to find one because it is
Oh
not
yeah.
easy to find treatment, even for someone like Nate who's in here. You were up against roadblocks. How did you were already so down and depressed and you had used. How did you find the desire to get clean anyways? Because if you were so down, you could have just kept going. How did you find that like spark of hope in you that was like, no, I don't want to go down this road further? You might not even know the answer to that question, but like, how did you do that?
Fuck, I don't even. I mean, I. God, it sucks so bad because it took me like a month to even get in someplace. It was so fucking lame. I just really wasn't enjoying getting loaded anymore, and it was just like, you know how you're getting high and you feel euphoria, but you're not really like enjoying it. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I don't even know. Really, I was just afraid. Like, I didn't want to not be able to do the work that I was doing because I could see like how getting high was getting in the way. And
Okay.
I think, I mean, I was still functioning by all means, but I had seen how it like was gonna come in and probably take that away at some point, and I didn't want to lose that because I really enjoy what I do, and I could see how it was affecting my mental health too, and I was just like, "Fuck, this sucks," and so I was like, I didn't even care. I just did it. I don't know. I just did it. I
Yeah.
just did it. Like Rick called me and said, "Hey, you can come here if you want," and I just fucking shot there.
Yeah.
I don't even. Maybe, as they say, I was under a power not of my own. I don't fucking know. I just went.
Right.
Yeah. I just didn't think about it.
But what you just said, I think, is really important. Like the work that you do is important to you and you don't want to lose it. That's one of the things I think is like the most important thing for an addict to find in recovery is a purpose. I
Mhm,
love spin and fitness so
mhm.
fucking much. And also, actually, this like talking to people about being in recovery, but in particular, like teaching spin and being in the fitness world. I don't want to lose that. Like, because I think about that, especially in the early days. I'm like, okay, so like if I did meth right now, right? Like say I did meth today after we got off the interview. I did meth. Here's what would happen. I'm supposed to teach tomorrow at 9:30. I wouldn't be able to go to that class because I still need to make a mix for that class. And I'm not going to be able to make one on meth because I'm going to be distracted. And then I'm also going to be super upset that I just lost 8.5 years, right? That's going to start going through my head a lot. And I'm going to be really upset and thinking about the podcast and I'm this person in recovery and whatever. So I'm not going to make a mix. And then I'm going to be up all night unable to teach. And I remember what it used to be like to teach after being up all night or on coke or meth. I can feel it like there's like a tiredness behind the eyes and there's just a gauntness to your face. And like it's like that soulless laugh when people say something and you make yourself be like, yeah. But because you know you were supposed to have a good response in that moment, like I can feel it right now. And it's just so like I can feel it, right? That's what would happen. And so that's often what I tell myself if I haven't had a strong urge to use in a really long time, but like say it occurred to me, the work is what pulls me back because I'm like, no, I can't lose this studio. I can't lose these women. And the same thing, obviously, when I had my own. And so I think having a purpose is really helpful. That's what got you there. So you went, you detoxed, you haven't used again, which I knew you wouldn't. I just knew you wouldn't. And you're out. But what I wasn't necessarily anticipating was the depression that set in even more so afterwards. And it continued to take hold of you. And you were in the early days, but the depression was getting like worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Why do you think it continued to get bad during that time? Like what was going on with you that made it you just went into such a dark place?
I got out and I had every intention on like trying to work on myself. That's not how it went. I mean, I got out and I had like built this, I don't know, like life that didn't really change just because I used it was there for me when I got out. When I got out of detox, I had like 2,000 units of Narcan just delivered and like 1,000 test strips that had to be done done with. So my ass went straight back to it. Like the next day, I was like loading my car up with Narcan, and doing what I do. And it was really hard. First off, my life changed really quick to backpedal. My life changed really quick over a short amount of time, and a lot of shit either got put on me or I just took it on. And I had never really learned balance or how to balance that with like life in itself and like all the aspects of life. and then new in recovery again, and trying to balance that and do all this stuff. And I think it was just hard because I felt stuck because I was like, I don't know how to stop doing this work. I don't know how to balance this. I can't stop working. I felt a personal responsibility to people everywhere to like get them Narcan and test strips or resources or whatever, and I didn't know how to balance it. I didn't know how to stop, and I just felt stuck. And then, my mental health, like I had some issues like come about from using, like how do I say, like I don't even know, like I had a traumatic experience using, just like freaked the fuck out, didn't know what was happening. And so now every time my body feels weird, I feel like I'm experiencing that experience again. I think I've told you this. And
Yeah.
so I've been dealing with that, like trying to figure out, I've been having panic attacks and shit like that. It's getting better somewhat. It comes and goes, I never know, and so, and like I didn't think my brain was going to get back to normal. So I thought I wasn't going to be able to do concerts and shows and things like that. Because the first one I did after detox, so like, fuck this, I'm out, dude. Because there's so much shit going on, my brain could not handle it. And I thought I was fucked. Like I thought I wasn't going to be able to do this again. And like that depressed the shit out of me. And I didn't think that I was ever going to be the person that I used to be. I didn't think I was going to change. And then also going through like financial insecurity with my job and stuff like that. Like, I mean,
No, that's the hardest stressor for me when there's
yeah,
money involved. And I think it's because we've been so broke, right? We've been broke. And so it's the biggest trigger for me is the money. And
yeah,
obviously for you too.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not really a materialistic person or anything like that, but it was more so just like my basic needs being taken care of, Like, legitimately, if one or two things were to happen, I could probably find myself on the street, you know what I mean? And like that was like, and so just, I don't know, maybe I got bitter at life in the world because I'm thinking, I'm doing all this shit, but I'm in this situation where if a couple bad things happen, I'm gonna be showering with my homies. You know what I mean? Like that's the reality of it. And like I'm not above that. I'm not above that at all. But it's like definitely something that's a fucking stressor. And it's like, and also being like in this situation where I love the people that I work for. I love what I do, and I've done this for a long time. But I'm gonna have to take a step away in order to be like financially secure. And that was tough. And up until recently, and not people are just now going to find out about this because no one knows that I'm doing this besides work. But up until recently, I made that decision to take a step away from that.
Right.
And it was hard because I felt like my brain would tell me that I was like betraying them almost. You know what I mean? And like I'm going to let all these people down and da 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 da. It was like super hard.
That's interesting to me that makes sense that you felt that way, that you felt like I'm doing all this good work and here I'm broke, like
Oh yeah.
that would make you develop a resentment. I feel that way about my mom sometimes. She was a social worker and didn't make a lot of money, and she's
Oh,
out
look at
there
that shit.
saving the world and really concerned about retirement. And I always thought, man, that's so fucking unfair. Like of all the people that should catch a break, like my mother should catch a break. You know what I mean? And like I'm sure you felt that way too. And so that contributed to the feelings at the time. So your life was waiting for you right where it was when you got out, meaning the same level of activity and stressors were there. Like you said, you got home and there was tons of Narcan that you had to immediately go back to work. The day you get out, you had every intention on working on yourself. I think that's important that you said that. You said, I had every intention of working on myself. I really did. But like work was still there. And that's often the case for people when they get out of rehab. Like we want to keep doing the things, but life is still waiting for us. I was always just a homeless person, so I didn't have a job to go back to. And in a way, maybe that was good because I had the time to slowly put the pieces back together, like while I was in sober living, get a class here and there. So you stayed in a dark place, but continuing to do the work and show up for the podcast for a length of time where I thought you just were going to not be the same anymore. Like you said, I was like, oh, I think this is just Nate now. And he's still super valuable and, is a great guy. But it was almost like I couldn't really even remember what it was like when I first met you. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is like, okay. But you kept going to work. You eventually said, I can't do this anymore. And you started making little changes. What would you say was the first? I sent you to a doctor that I knew would work well with you.
That was probably the first change because I didn't want to. Not that I'm against medication. I don't know. I just don't like taking it really.
Right. But
You
I
know.
knew this doctor in particular. He works very well with men who are addicts in recovery, in and out of recovery.
No, he's a great doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
great. I mean, he
he
really is.
yeah, he obviously he was able to speak to you and he suggested an antidepressant, right?
Yeah.
What did he say that changed your mind? Because I remember you telling me, "Yeah, I'll go see him, but I'm not going to do any like medication or anything." Do you remember what he said that changed your mind?
Broke down like the process with like anxiety and depression. Pretty much just how he treated me. Like it essentially is what sold it. You know what I mean? And
Totally. And he does explain the mechanics of the brain. He'll draw a picture on the
yeah,
board.
like he has his little board there, and he like, okay, this is what happens here, here, here. You know, he was like, if we can change how your brain works here, here, and here, you may not need the medication, but right now, take the medication, work on fixing this, and this, and you may not need it, and you can just carry on. You know, and I was like, okay, you know, so just how he conducted himself and treated me was like, you know, he didn't feel like a fucking car salesman. So I guess that's pretty cool.
Right, totally. And well, and I knew that he would speak to you that way, but like I didn't know if you would even go, but you went. And like
Mhm.
again, there had to have been like a spark of hope that made you actually like make the appointment and actually go. You know, like there was something inside of you that was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Because I didn't even think you would go, right? But you did. You did. You made the appointment and you went. Are you okay sharing what medication he gave you? We don't
Oh
have
yeah,
to.
he put me on he put me on Wellbutrin, and then he gave me like since my last, not the most recent visit, but well, at my most recent visit, the time between like the most recent and the last visit, I had like 4 anxiety attacks, and
Okay.
so he put me on Boost Bar, right? But
Okay.
that's a take as needed. I haven't even took it yet, so
Okay.
but you know, so yeah,
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Boost Bar. They used to give that to people in choices for different things.
yeah.
'Cause it's somehow like a non-narcotic that can help with whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's like for anxiety. Yeah, so you can take it when you have an anxiety attack, or if I think I'm gonna be in a situation where I might get an anxiety attack, I can take it. But there is like if you take it consistently, like you have to taper off of it.
Oh, okay, alright, so there is potentially that element to it. So
Yeah.
you went and saw him, you started taking the medication, and then I would say the next thing that came back, or the next decision that you made, was to step back from New Path and get a regular job and take care of yourself. How would you say that's probably the next thing that you did, and how did you end up deciding that even though you felt those guilty feelings about taking care of others, I'm gonna die if I don't do this decision? How did you get to that point?
I mean, well, essentially, I mean, I just got tired of like having to live paycheck to paycheck, and I've not even started a new job yet. But I told them like I made that call. I just I told them like, hey, I'm looking for something else right now, and this is like where I'm at. By all means, it's not their fault at all because they are on grant money, so
Right.
it's not like that they don't want to pay me more or anything like that. Like they are not responsible for it because grant money has to be allotted for certain things and blase blase. So it's not their fault at all. But I mean, I was just tired of worrying about it, tired of stressing, tired of sacrificing my self and health just to for some fucking false sense of fucking loyalty that's not even, not even reality, and some loyalty that was killing me essentially. People just told me to go apply at this place, and I was like, okay, and it made sense, and the money's good, the benefits are good. No, it's not panned out yet, but it's in the process. So I mean, I don't know. I was just tired of worrying about. I was just like over it. I don't know. I'd had enough, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something.
But even though you haven't switched yet, you've still changed your lifestyle. Even though you still have the other, you've obviously been able to shift priority from like I'm still doing my job. It's you, of course, you're going to do your job, but you're prioritizing yourself because then you also started. You decided you wanted to get back into 12 step, and I think this is important. Sponsorship and steps are different than the fellowship because both you and I have had run-ins in the fellowship. The fellowship are people. The steps and a sponsor is like guided therapy. And so you got back into the steps with someone, right?
Yeah,
What has that been like and done for you? And where are you in the steps?
we're about to go over step 8
Okay.
with drop the rock.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that book when
I want to talk about that too. But what have, like, getting up to step 8 with a sponsor this time? Because another part of the emotional component, I think, of how depressed you were was feeling a resentment with 12 step.
Oh,
We didn't
for
even talk
sure.
about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, like that shit rent that resentment got a lot of rent out of my head for sure.
Well, and people have resentments with 12 step. That's why I think this is really important to share.
Oh
People have
yeah.
a lot of resentment with 12 step, and it's often what's available. And you do too, but you still connected with a sponsor. You obviously found someone that you
Oh, it
felt
was
you
my
could
old
work with.
sponsor. It was
Oh,
my
it
old
was.
sponsor. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So you called him
yeah,
again.
yeah.
And then we're going through the steps again helpful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, has that been helpful?
Honestly, to be honest with you, he was like, "We're gonna look at your character defects and like because everything,
Okay.
like, all my resentments and shit, like everything was my fault essentially. Like it's not like I wasn't responsible for what other people were doing, but my response to these people was why I was feeling the way that I felt, which is character defect.
Okay.
You
So
know?
we jumped to 6 and 7, which is
Yeah,
character defects. Okay.
yeah. We jumped to 6 and 7. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant we're about to go over step 7 out
Okay.
of drop the rock. But essentially, that his point was, you live a pretty good life. Like you're not going out here destroying shit. You have somewhat of a relationship with God, all this stuff. But my main issue is that was my response to others and dealing with other humans was not good,
Right.
and that's why I had these resentments, this toxic responses and all this stuff, or I was letting this stuff become toxic to my life because of how my perspective on it and how I received it,
Right.
and also my response to it, and that's like why we started looking at that.
So let's talk about, he had you read a book that was super helpful for you, which is called Drop the Rock.
Drop
Will
the
you
rock.
talk a little bit about what Drop the Rock is and how it helped you?
Yeah, so essentially it's over 6 and 7. I think there's a step 8 book called The Ripple. I think it's The Ripple Effect.
Okay.
And to start it off, it talks about like a woman and this boat takes off and she jumps in the water to try to catch the boat, right? And they're like, drop the rock, drop the rock. And so essentially she's holding on to like character defects that she thinks are assets to her, but it's really weighing her down and keeping her from achieving what she wants to do. So and then so she drops the rock, quote unquote, in the story, and then she catches the boat and gets on. They go on to their destination. So it essentially talks about how we think that character defects serve us when they actually weigh us down. And there's all sorts of topics on it, and some character defects can be assets. It's really just an excessive use of them, or just a toxic use of an asset, you
One of the
know?
guests on the show, Rachel BA, who's one of the
Yeah.
best episodes that we ever did, she says that a character defect is just a personality trait that's been extorted.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry, distorted. That's been
Yeah.
distorted. So it's just
Yeah.
a trait. Like loyalty is just simply a trait, but it can get distorted. Like as you say that, I'm thinking, because like I think of myself as a loyal person too. But if loyalty in a relationship where somebody is using drugs is killing me, then that loyalty is no longer an asset. That's a fucking defect. And so, did that book help you identify what those things were for you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, like being loyal to a job that makes me stressed financially, that hurts me in longevity, my mental health, that can go into physical and all that stuff is not good. That's not good. That's toxic.
Right.
And so yeah, it really pointed out like how that had happened and why that I was doing it, which is
Okay.
I take things personal, you know what I mean? And it essentially gave me a way to like change myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it walks you through actually making the changes.
Well, I don't. For me, it just painted it out really clear, like how to make those changes, and,
Okay.
and with just like one sentence. And honestly, after that sentence, I didn't was like, I don't need to read the rest of this fucking book because it made so much sense.
What's the
But
sentence?
I read it. It just says act as if the change has already happened. So essentially, it tells you it's kind of like fake it till you make it almost. But somehow, like how they formatted this sentence registered in my brain for whatever reason, and so it says act as if the change has already happened. So essentially, you just live your life as if this change has already happened and you don't have this issue.
Okay.
That's how you live. So what would you be like if you didn't have this issue and then you live like that? You make those decisions every day and you live like that.
Can you give me an example of you doing that?
Oh, I mean, just seeing something toxic on TikTok or Instagram. And, I could stop and take the time because usually I would. I would stop and take the time to do it for every single fucking video or whatever was in my inbox. And I still will take the time to do it. But you know what I mean? But like, now I pick and choose my battles, and someone told me is like, we don't swat mosquitoes when we're trudging through the rainforest. We don't stop and swat mosquitoes when we're walking through the rainforest. And that makes so much sense, And so it's just like I pick and choose my battles. And if I feel like I'm overexerting myself in an area, I just stop. I just stop. I just don't do it. I just don't
Okay.
do it.
You also, if you're okay talking about this too, around this time, you went to a Native American ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay talking about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, because that was really a big change too. So, you went and you brought Narcan to a reservation. And while you were there, you did some sort of ceremony. And when you came back from that, there was a definite change. When I saw you, we weren't out of the woods yet, but you were already feeling better. Will you talk about what that ceremony was and what you guys did?
Yeah. So, we just did a sweat. We did a sweat, and I didn't even stay in the tent the whole time. Like, but we
Oh, it
did a
was just a sweat lodge.
Yeah, it was a sweat lodge, and we did
Okay.
that. And I don't know. I just, I think there I kind of had the realization that a lot of people, regardless of whether I agree with them or not, if they're coming from a place of love, that I have to understand that they think they're doing what's right, regardless. And it kind of made me think about how I go about things, how I approach things, and kind of like maybe changing the way I respond to people before it gets to like a level of addressing them directly. You know what I mean? It just so it kind of made me check myself and question myself, and but it also gave me like an understanding to understand where other people are coming from, because in my heart I think I'm doing what right. Well, I think I'm doing what's right, and people may not agree with me, but I genuinely believe that. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's out of a place of love, and I have to understand that about the people that are opposing to me, and I try to do that and give mutual respect, but it's hard. It's hard because I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very vocal person. I speak my mind to the utmost extent. I'm very blunt, and so it's just a learning lesson. I don't know. It's a path that I'm gonna have to walk.
Well, but you actually took action on that realization because without getting into specifics, Nate has had a feud, I would call it, a feud with someone in our community, in the recovery community as well, big time. And after that, didn't you reach out to him or was he there? Didn't you speak to him?
Yeah, he was there, and we chopped it up and talked and stuff like that.
And didn't you guys kind of make amends to each other?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I told him, because there's some times that I was definitely not spiritual, and I apologized for that, and was like, I shouldn't talk to you like that, and and they did the same for me, and I was like, I don't need to like hold this hatred towards you in my heart or feel some kind of way like you're gonna do what you're gonna do regardless. That may change, but I don't need to like hold that in my heart and like let it affect me.
Was it just a coincidence he was there?
No, he's the
Y'all
one that
happened-
invited me to the event.
He's
Yeah,
the one that invited you?
yeah, he's the one that got me invited to the event. Yeah,
And
and then
you went anyway?
yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So you went, you saw him in person, and you guys kind of worked it out. And I mean, I watched you do that, like, so that realization that you had, you actually really implemented that change. You
yeah.
then also you started hiking too.
Mhm.
Why hiking? And where did that even come from? Suddenly I'm seeing your Vans and your socks, like the last guy I would think hiking out in the woods in the forest. Why'd you start hiking?
I don't even fucking know. I just needed to keep myself busy, and I was like, "What the fuck do I do?" And I was just like, "What's there to do that I don't have to pay money for, but I can just go do it, and I can keep myself busy for an extended amount of time?" And so I started hiking, and was like, "Okay." So I would just put my headphones in and take like a liter of water with me, and I would do like 5 or 6 miles a day and hike. and it just kept me busy. Like, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm not a hiker. Before then, I'd been on like 2 hikes in my life, and one of the times we got fucking lost. So don't really have the best experience hiking.
I know, but
Yeah.
here's what it did for you. And this is one of those things that I think you didn't even realize was working back towards your mental health. You were looking for a distraction, but you're getting sunlight, you're outside, you're
Yeah.
doing something physical, you're
Yeah.
getting endorphins, you're
Yeah.
walking uphill, downhill, you're amongst nature. And we know that there is so much healing property in nature. And so this is another super helpful tool for someone. This is a free way. If you're feeling super fucking down, you can go walk outside. And it totally worked for you. I even said this the other day because we used to be the same color as the back wall. And now
Yeah.
he looks tan and healthy and I'm still the same fucking color as the back wall. But you started showing up, you lost weight, you're tan, you've been outside. Like it totally helped you.
Yeah, no, it helped. I mean, I process a lot of shit, walking and stuff like that, and
You did?
I would just put my headphones in, I would process shit, I would think, I'd keep myself busy, it would make me tired, and it was just, I don't know, it got me through the day, honestly.
And then you also started going to the gym as well at some point, the actual gym.
Yeah, well, yeah, I quit eating like shit, which is a huge deal. You know what I mean?
When did you stop eating crappy food? How long
When did I
ago?
stop?
Yeah.
About a month and a half, 2 months ago, give or
Okay.
take.
All right.
Yeah.
So around the time that all of this started to, because I think the doctor was right. I think the Wellbutrin kicked some of this into drive so that you could start driving to go take the hikes and doing all that stuff. Because I know that Wellbutrin gives you dopamine and can get the party
Yeah.
started.
So essentially, that gives you energy, right? To like have the motivation to do that. It can cause like some anxiety because it like amps you up. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what it does. It may be so. I don't know. Before I just didn't give a fuck about living life. Like I would show up for the things I had to show up for, but anything other than that, like I was just like I don't fucking care. You
I
know?
don't even know how you were continuing to show up for things. You were going to work and you were coming here, but you were very miserable.
Oh yeah, I fucking hated everything. Yeah, I fucking hated mere existence. Yeah.
Do you still feel like, are you happy to be alive right now?
Oh yeah, I want to be alive right now. Yeah, before not so much. Yeah,
I know.
before like
Before, not
I
so
mean
much.
before like if I'm being honest, like and I felt this way before, but like I mean I almost used one time. I almost used once. I think I told you that. I don't know if I told you that or not, but I almost used once, and then like I don't know. Other than that, and I don't even know if that would have been intentional. Maybe.
You mean you were going to try to overdose yourself?
Yeah, that was a possibility. Yeah. Well, I figured if I used, I was going to overdose anyway. I figured there's a very high possibility that I was going to die. And, but other than that, like, this is where my brain was at. Okay. If someone was passing on like a 2-lane road and they came in my lane, I might have sped up to hit them. You know what I mean? Like, that's where my brain was at a lot of the time. And, or just like, I'm not going to do it. But if something really bad happens to me, I wouldn't fucking care.
Right.
That's essentially that's just where my brain was at. I just didn't give a fuck. I just didn't care. But yeah, all that's gone now. Yeah, I don't feel
I was
that.
going to say, how are you feeling now?
I feel good. I enjoy living life now. I enjoy staying busy. Life's not perfect. I don't address everyone as I should. I'm not perfect. I still, I came at someone sideways yesterday. Over
You
some,
did?
yeah, over
What,
some,
online? On TikTok or something?
no, on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And,
Can you even communicate with people on LinkedIn? I didn't know that was like a back and forth deal.
oh, you can comment on stuff.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no. I went off on 2 people yesterday on LinkedIn.
All right. Both
Yeah,
on LinkedIn?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'm not. Yeah, it is.
Well, it's progress, not perfection, which is not a phrase that I love, but it's real.
Well, I didn't really. Well, really, I only went. I think I only came unglued on like one person, and
Okay.
I feel it was justified.
Okay.
Whether it was or not, that's to be determined. But yeah, I'm not perfect. But yeah, I feel. Yeah, like, I don't want to die anymore. I don't want bad shit to happen to me. I feel good. I feel healthy. I'm enjoying living right now.
So, because I think we can kind of roadmap this out to you addressed how you were feeling medically, spiritually with the
Yeah,
SEP that sponsored the book,
I started with that and like
physically, and with your work status, like your daily life. You approached it from all of those ways. And again, did you even realize you were doing this or not until I said something?
well,
Because you wasn't planned, you just were due. But I think you were, because you've been in the recovery space for a long time, and this is the gift of recovery. We do know what to do when we spent enough times in meetings and in rehabs and talking and to people about being unhealthy and getting healthy. I think some of this stuff was innate in you to know I need to get moving. I should probably go outside. Like I should call a sponsor. I'll read the book because he told me to. Like we can do those things if we're in recovery and we've seen them work before.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I knew I was doing them, but I didn't realize all this change was fucking happening because I was just doing. You
Right.
know what I mean? And yeah, and sometimes the change we don't realize the changes happen. It just happens. You know what I mean?
Well, this brings me to my other least favorite. This is my least favorite phrase of all time in 12 step. Trust the process. I
Oh
hate
yeah.
that phrase. I
Well,
hate that phrase.
I hate you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I hate that phrase because that
Oh, right. How you
exactly where you're supposed to be fucking sucks a lot of the time. Usually when you hear that, you're in a really shitty spot.
know. I know.
Oh,
No, that's so
oh.
true. That's when someone says it to you. You know who used to say trust the process to me and I hated it was Fabi at FRC.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's
And she
definitely a
would
problem.
tell me to trust the process. And I'm like, I can't even get a job because you won't let me into work readiness program. And you're telling me to trust the process. And Fabi, who we're talking about, is an amazing example of recovery.
Oh yeah, no, she's a great
She had
woman.
like 10 years. I was
yeah.
an out of control brat, and she was right that I should have been trusting the process. So it's, but it's so rough to like hear those things. So if somebody was in the spot that you were in 4 months ago, what would you say to them right now? Because I guarantee you someone's listening that's in the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like take suggestions. You know what I mean? Like listen to other people. Like let people help you. As hard as that is, because I wasn't trying to hear that shit. Like I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear anything in regardless to like mental health. Even though my mental health was suffering very much. And I would say, I mean, I think having a hobby is like the best thing that you can do. Like, it's so good to have a hobby, something to keep you busy and moving, whether it's the gym or a sport or anything like that. Something that you can just do that like shuts your mind down. You know what I mean? And
Oh, you started playing pickleball too.
yeah,
I almost forgot about that. Okay, when
yeah,
you said hobby, that reminded me. And the pickleball has helped, right?
I started playing pickleball. I like bought a new skateboard, so I started skating again. Just different things to just like do and live life that's not consumed with like work all the time. You know what I mean? So I don't like do as much anymore. Like I'm like this has a certain spot of my day, and then after that, like I don't fuck with it. You know what I mean? I'm like living my life over
Right.
here. So it's
Right.
like having a harmonic balance or attempting to have a harmonic balance of life and not being consumed by this shit over here, which I can easily get consumed with. Because it was like once I found purpose, I just got consumed with it, and I was like, 'cause I'd never had purpose before. You know what I mean? I was like, oh fuck, this is awesome, and then I allowed it to become toxic because it consumed my whole life, and then it was like, well, this is my identity now, like, but I don't get to do anything, and not that I didn't enjoy that, but I got burnt out on it, and didn't have anything to do for me. You
Right.
know?
Well, as you say that too, I think that probably happens to a lot of addicts. I
Oh,
bet
for
if we
sure.
found out because we didn't have purpose for so long
Yeah.
and we weren't giving back to the world. We weren't important. And like at the studio, I was important and people cared about me and I had purpose. But
Yeah.
again, maybe because we're addicts, it consumed me and became toxic, right? And finding that balance, which I think is probably like a constantly evolving process. Did it annoy you when I basically made you a doctor's appointment like I'm your mom? Did you get annoyed at
Um,
the time, honestly?
I probably did, honestly.
You were very polite. You went and you were not rude to me,
Yeah.
but I don't know if internally you were like, "Oh my god."
I usually hate when people act like they're my parents, honestly. So
But
I
I don't think
probably
I do act like your mom. I think
Yeah.
I'm your friend. Like, I think
Yeah.
sometimes I worry that because I'm female and I'm older than you. But
Right.
like, hopefully I don't act like your mom. But when I was making you doctor's appointments, I was like, I hope he's not annoyed with me.
My mom wasn't around enough for me to know how she acted, so I don't think I know that's fucked up, but I
Right. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's so funny. One
I mean, it's the truth. I don't know how she acted if I can project that onto you, so
Okay.
you're good on that one.
Okay, good. Well, I do want to tell you that I'm really proud of you. I'm very proud of you. I've seen a lot of people go into the space that you were in and then you just kind of don't see them again. I thought maybe you were going to just move back to Tennessee or, maybe not start like using oxys again, but go down a different, just maybe start smoking weed, drinking, just completely extricate yourself from recovery and just like go be not a recovery guy anymore. I was like, I don't know if I don't know what this path is going to look like. I'm impressed that you fought for yourself when it was very, very hard.
Yeah. I also want to we during all this, we were doing drug testing too. So I would may or may not have had things
He
in.
means he was testing drugs. He had drugs with him to go test.
Yes.
So as you were feeling shitty, you had fentanyl and meth on you.
Yeah, or coke, or I think ketamine or something like that, and it was like, sometimes I would sit on it for a while. And not that there was only one time where I was like, I'm probably going to use this if I don't get rid of it. You know what I mean?
What did you do to not use that time? Or did you get rid of it that day?
Oh, someone called me. They were like, how do you feel? Or like whatever. And I was like, I got this stuff.
Oh, you told someone?
Yeah, I was like, I might use it. And they were like, well, what do you have? And I told them, they're like, oh, you need to get rid of it. And they were like, they made me feel like, I was like, I didn't even want to get rid of it. But they were like, oh, I'm going to be up. I probably won't sleep tonight. So just call me if you need anything. I don't know if they intentionally guilt tripped me, but I felt so bad that they cared that they were going to be. I was like, fuck. I shouldn't even told you in the first place. But so I just got rid of it. So I just put it in water and got rid of it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, but I think what you just said is key, is telling someone, right?
Oh yeah. But yeah, so I didn't even want to get rid of it, but it was the fact that they were like, oh, I won't sleep if you. I'm like, oh my God, you sound like my fucking family. You know what I mean?
Was this a mutual friend of ours that said that to you?
I don't know if you know this person. I don't know if you know this person. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so last thoughts, if there's anybody, again, like I said, listening, who's in that place, is there anything that you would say in addition to take suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I would talk to someone, tell them how you feel, be honest with somebody close to you that understands you, hopefully we all have that person understands you and you can be forthright with them. Medication, there's nothing wrong with medication. If you can get to the doctor, take medication, take suggestions, be open, be active. I mean, it doesn't have to be the gym or hiking. I don't even know, hiking was just the most simple thing to do to get moving. But just move your body. It releases dopamine, serotonin, and it makes you feel good. It releases feel good chemicals in your body. And if there's a decision that you don't want to make that you should probably make, I would say get a plan and make it. I think that's ultimately that's how you get unstuck, is you make decisions. To get unstuck, you got to make a decision that you more than likely don't want to make.
My sponsor says that because one of the things I struggle with a lot is the idea of God's will versus my will.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I don't really know what that means. For real, I don't know what that means. And Rachel said once, she was like, okay, well, it's like this. If there's something that you really, really want to do, but you kind of think you shouldn't, that's your will. And if there's something you really don't want to do, but you kind of think you should, that's God's will.
Oh, fuck. I've never heard it put that way. God.
Me neither. No, Rachel is brilliant. This is why she's been my sponsor for a decade. Isn't that a great way to look at it?
I've never heard someone put it that way, honestly.
I know, me neither. But it's that's so accurate. I know. Well, that's Rachel for you. She's my brilliant fucking sponsor, who I love, who I would be nowhere without.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I've never heard that before. Wow.
Well, thank you so, so much for being so honest and open. This is the second time I've interviewed you about something challenging that you went through. And I know it's not easy. And I mean, you make it seem easy, but there's got to be part of you that's like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to talk about all this stuff, but it's going to be so helpful to someone. I know that. And I really appreciate, once again, your honesty, your, authenticity, and your forthrightness in talking about this stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't easy. There was times, maybe it looks easy now because I made it to the other side, but during that, I was just a miserable fucking piece of shit. You know what I mean? There was times where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. People would call me and ask me how I'm doing. I was like, oh, I'm just contemplating unaliving myself. No different than yesterday. You know what I mean? And that was really how I fucking felt,
No, you said that to me every day.
Yeah. I just wanted to die.
Every day. So I was like, I don't know if he's going to live or not. No, I mean, you make it look easy to talk about now. It's probably not always easy when I ask you, you know what I mean? Because I asked you to talk about the relapse and to talk about this. And I just appreciate that you're willing to talk about it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to serve a purpose somewhere. I don't know. it's done now, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's
All
just,
right. Well, thank you again so much, my
yeah,
friend.
yeah, yeah. No, you're welcome. Yeah, always. You're welcome.